Hello, everybody, and welcome to this third in the series of interviews for General Election 2024. My name is Tressa Keegan, and now for something a little bit different, a new face and a name that will be new to some of us, but not everybody, because Councillor Bill Cleere is quite a popular councillor from the Naas Municipal District. If I'm not mistaken, he topped the poll in the locals for the Naas LEA at the last local elections. Because I wasn't covering Naas, I didn't get a chance to interview him. So this is my first chat with Bill Cleere. He is a councillor, as I've said, and a marine investigator. Who knows what that is? Let's ask him. He's a former Social Democrats councillor. He was unsuccessful in the party's election convention, losing out to Aidan Farrelly, and decided to go it not alone, but independently. So with that, I'll bring Bill on screen. I'm just going to get us into split screen here, and we can say hello together. So Bill, will you introduce yourself to everyone who's listening, and I'll ask you a few questions after that.
Hi, thanks very much, Rhys. Thanks for having, and thank you for doing this. You know, it's badly needed. These kind of discussions and debates, you know, are really, really important, because everyone needs to get their message out there and for people to see who we are, you know, warts and all. My name is Bill Cleere. I'm a councillor in the Naas Municipal District. I was former mayor and I topped the poll this time around, and it's quite simple. The reason I topped the poll is due to hard work, no other reason. I decided I was with the Social Democrats, and my mentor, Catherine Murphy, who has brought me through all of this process up until leaving the party, which was painful. And then I decided to go independent. So now I'm the independent candidate for Kildare North. And ironically, I think the last one was Catherine Murphy. So yeah, here I am.
That's right. Very good. Well, thank you for that. So look, everybody's just getting to know you. Do you work part-time or are you full-time councillor? What way is your balance at the moment, Bill?
Part-time councillor, and I also work as a contractor, as a marine investigator. So my history of my work, I Merchant Navy, which is, if anybody knows, those big ships that carry lots of boxes and cargo ships and people, that's us. It's not Navy with guns. And traveled around the world for 25 years. After that, then came back to Ireland, working on ferries, and then got a job I was with Irish Ferries, which I know a lot of people might remember. We were all outsourced, and then I got a job with Dublin Port as a pilot. So I was there for a number of years, and then one day about this time, I went out to join a ship in very bad conditions, and the ladder collapsed. I fell off and ended up seriously injured, and then I was in the sea for a while, looking at life, thinking this is the end of it. And I was rescued, thankfully, by some fantastic people, but was unable to return to the work due to the injuries I sustained in that thing. So I volunteer a lot, and that moved me on to volunteering. And then Catherine Murphy would have spotted me and asked me to join the Social Democrats. So that's how I get into politics.
Wow. Okay. I'm just letting everybody know here in the comments, the questions are welcome for anybody who's watching. I imagine we're going to have more observers than questions first time around. I think a lot of people are having a look at you and road testing you, Bill, if you'll excuse the expression. But I know you're looking to expand your base outside of Naas now. I mean, that's the objective of any candidate for general election, especially where you've been a councillor and you've had that focus. How well do you know the issues in Celbridge? We are blowing in the wind a little bit. We don't have a homegrown candidate, and we're crying out for strong representation, somebody who knows what we're going through, and somebody who's maybe got the energy and the teeth to get stuck in and fix it. So talk to me about your impression of what's happening in Celbridge, and we'll discuss a few of the issues we're having.
Sure. At the start of this process, I as a councillor, I did this first, but I continued this on a wider basis through the county, where I travelled to every single country road in North Kildare, all the way up beyond Johnstown Bridge, right up to the borders, skirted all the way borders north, and then travelled over through Johnstown Bridge, Kilcock, and then found myself over in Celbridge, you know, and did all the rural. And then once all the rural was done, and that you really get a feeling from people in rural Ireland of what's going on. You really get a sense, and they're so nice, you know. I have to say, I didn't get given out to, you know, a pit bull come out at. And, I managed that, but that was okay. It was very nice. But then you move into the Celbridge, Look, everybody knew all about Castletown and the bridge. We all know those issues, But it's only when you go knocking on doors and asking people. We're probably one of the few people who actually go to doors and ask people. And my pattern generally is, I introduce myself, running for the Dáil, and I said, listen, there are a number of issues which are coming up in other places in Celbridge, and that would be Castletown, and the bridge, traffic, that kind of thing, and dereliction. Those things are coming up. Would that be similar to your what you feel is on? And they would give me, and tell me that.
Yeah.
And add on some personal and national issues as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Sorry, I thought you were addressing that question to me. Would that be what I'm seeing as well? Yes, I suppose, well, Castletown, of course, it's the hot burning issue in the town at the moment, but that's only because the fire in people's bellies about the bridge has been snuffed out by years, decades of disappointment. But it's still there as a very sore spot. And when we first connected on this Zoom, Bill, you mentioned there'd been a traffic incident and that you were stuck in your car and you'd hoped to be in the office. Well, it doesn't take a traffic incident to clog up Celbridge. You can literally try and get across town for a sliced pan or to see a friend or something, and it might take you 40 minutes to travel the guts of 2 kilometres. So we do badly need a bridge in Celbridge, but we also need the 3 schools project to go ahead. I'm sure you heard that on the doors as well. We are 20 years waiting for a proper school building for St. Patrick's. St. Raphael's the same, and Celbridge Community College badly in need of a permanent school. But it's been held up and held up and held up. And I mean, I would have very good connections with the politicians around the place, and I just don't have a clear answer on when that school is going to materialize. So what do you think you might be able to do about the issues in Celbridge? I mean, are you ready to get stuck into them, and how?
My approach is going to be different, and it's based on approach you will see by other prominent independents in the country. All I'll say is I come from Tipperary and I see the results of what one prominent independent TD would have done down there, So part of my going around, I don't tell people what I'm going to do. I ask people what do they want me to do. And like what you've just said there, the bridge, Castletown, and the 3 campus schools. That's it. So my plan going forward is, because this government is going to be tight on numbers. After the Greens, they do not want the Greens again because they felt they're blaming the Greens for everything, of course. You know what I mean? They made us do it. We were only following orders from them. We didn't want to do it at all. Nonsense. So my plan is that they'll need certain what I would call progressive independence, and be a test of it in the council. I would work with all. Even in the council as Social Democrat, I would have worked with all parties to see, to get common ground and stuff like that. If they need my vote, it's quite simple, and I put it in black and white on my leaflet. If the government need my vote, I have a shopping list. I have a shopping list which I've developed throughout North Kildare. That's why I went to the towns as well. To what is your shopping list? Castletown is the number 1 for leak, slip, minute on the doors for leak, slip, minute, and Celbridge. So that is a big issue on the doors for this is your park. This is your park, and you've been neglected. No 2 ways about it. You have government TDs in your constituency and they have done nothing. This is not a substantial amount of money considering all the waste that's gone on. This is not substantial, and they've been whipped. They don't have influence, and that's plain and simple. They talk about they don't. Independents have a lot more influence, and any older people out there, they'll know the Tony Gregory deal with Charlie Haughey. That kind of an arrangement. And I am developing a shopping list that I find myself suddenly sitting in Dáil Éireann and I've been approached by parties say, what do you want to support us? And I'll say, here's my shopping list. My shopping list for Castletown is the bridge, where the money is there effectively now. All that unspent funding is there. That bridge is there. We just need it to be acted upon. It's Castletown and the campus. That's the approach I'm taking. And I was called a mercenary and all sorts, but I don't care. I don't care. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it my best shot on this.
Well, fair enough. Look, I think it's refreshing to have somebody come out and say, not my vote is for sale, I suppose would be a cynical way of putting it, but certainly that you will go tit for tat, and you will scratch backs in return for your constituents and their welfare. So that seems to me to be fair enough. We absolutely need not to be constrained by policies and party mechanics and all that sort of stuff. We absolutely need to get things done, and we need somebody who's going to have that freedom, I suppose, to deal with issues as they arise. I want to talk a little bit about Castletown, Bill, because I'm conscious that, obviously from Nate's point of view, you may not be as familiar with the intricacies of it as some of the more local candidates or the people who've been attending the stakeholders meetings. And I have had the privilege of attending the stakeholders meetings for my small part with the Save Castletown committee. There are a number of rights of way contested through the estate, through the domain. One of them is around is along the north side of the River Liffey. It's the Riverside Walk through Castletown. It extends from Selbridge Gate to Battylangley Gate. It is a pedestrian right of way. I'm not sure if you received, it would have been a couple of weeks ago, an email with some information on that, but the OPW are denying that a road ever existed there, and in doing so, deflecting from the argument that there is a right of way through Castletown. Now, I find that approach exclusive. I find that OPW are treating Castletown as a fiefdom, that the jewel of the house is something that they want to preserve at the expense of the peasants at the gate, because they see that there is cost in opening up the park to free public access and enjoyment. But they've taken a very muscular stance around it. They have curtailed access at the gates. And what's happened is they have severed the connection between people who live in Leixlip on the Parsonstown end and people who are from Selbridge. So they've literally kind of put a barrier between two very close-knit communities and the public who've been walking that route for literally hundreds of years. Can I ask for your support in making sure that the facts around the Riverside right-of-way are made known at Kildare County Council if you are a councillor when the argument comes up, but within government where you have that opportunity? May I ask you for a commitment on that? And do you need anything from me in order to give you confidence in it?
No, you have my 100% commitment. I've walked that trip since my kids were small, running up and down those little hills to the left and alongside the river. As a seafarer, I love walking by water. It's my thing. I'm not a mountain person. I just like it, And so, regardless, you have my full support in that. Now, as I say, 100-year, all the detail. I often think, we get too much stuck in detail. It's like running a race, as a horse race. We're thinking about what the last fence and second last fence, and the first last fence is you forced to be OPW. The OPW should not be the arbiters of all of this. This should be at the ministerial level, above that, and Patrick O'Donovan was the previous minister of the OPW, and I just referred to his comment to which he said on the bike shed, and this is the attitude he has, right? And I'm sure if this was down in Limerick at some estate, and there's no shortage down there either, that he'd be well thinking. He was the minister at the time when all this kicked off. His attitude, his word was at the when asked about the bike shed, he said, "What's wrong? Why don't they just get a plastic bag and put it over the seat?" And if that's the kind of caliber of an answer we're getting, this is why we are in the situation where we are. And this kicked off when he was there. So obviously he doesn't take these kind of things seriously. My experience with the OPW personally, I've done a lot of work on dereliction, and I have a lot of buildings which I believe are belonging to the OPW when I talk to people locally. And I wrote to the OPW asking them, do you own this building, that building? Quite a number of buildings. And every time I got a response from the OPW, and to be fair, they did respond, it was from the minister. So the organisation of the OPW is a peculiar one. It's not your normal, and I reckon that they are what I often call in civil service, they are dragging their feet on this one on purpose. And they're doing it because, well, as you say, they want the house, but they don't want the hassle of having to employ, 3 or 4 people who would be there, it's just supervising, emptying bins and making sure the place is, properly open to the public, free. So they're dragging their feet. This wouldn't be happening if there was a minister in this area. It wouldn't be happening. It's simple as that. This is the way.
I'm going to debate you. I'm going to debate you on that, just a touch, and I'll tell you why. The Minister for State with responsibility for the OPW, Kieran O'Donnell, so Paddy O'Donovan's successor.
Use the one now. Yeah.
Yes, he's been open, in my opinion. He has been open. He seems to be trying to solve the issues earnestly. He has been attentive, in fairness. Now, we could have done with more responses in the last few weeks, but I'm presuming the election got in the way, and I suppose I can understand that. What I'm saying to you is, I think that it's the permanent staff within the OPW, so the commissioner and the senior bodies down, that have really gotten it stuck in the mud. That's my observation, and I'm no fan of it's not a political thing. Do you know what I mean? I don't say I'm no fan of Fianna Fáil, or Fine Gael, I should say. I will always make allowance and show due respect when I see an individual person is working hard, and I suspect that that's the case in Kieran O'Donnell's situation. But I do see an inertia in the upper management within the OPW, and I also see a lot of disrespect, actually. So I would just say to you, for the sake of information, or I'm speaking for my own opinion here, but I have been at the meetings. I think the issues go deeper than the ministers that are running that department. I think an awful lot of power is put into the hands of the commissioner, who has just changed. As we know, John Conlon is now in charge, having succeeded Maurice Buckley. But I think there's an awful lot of power there, and I think that somebody somewhere has allowed a culture to evolve that power is treasured and protected. And I do think a minister who is in charge of that brief needs to shake that out. That would be my opinion, because we're not going to get a move on this until OPW start, I suppose, respecting the role they have with Castletown. But look, this interview isn't about me talking, but just to counter you on that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the minister at the end of the day. And obviously, if we got stuck in the mud with the previous minister, the other minister is now trying to get us out of the mud, and then the permanent civil service are quite happy to stand back, fold their arms, and say, sure, look, let them all fight it out together. Let the politicians fight it out with your references, your thing, the peasants at the gate. Let them sort it out. Sure, look, that's their problem. And then, at the end of the day, we come to us. And sure, we have other problems to be dealing with, because we're getting stung with all this bike shed security hut stuff. And they'll use that. We're very busy. But I don't think I'll let them off. I'm not going to let them off. It's our job. You represent us. It's their job. We work for you. I say this in the doors all the time. Never forget, I work for you. I don't work for a party. I don't work for a council. I don't work for anyone. I work for you. And that is very important to remember. I've no doubt that Kieran O'Donnell, I met him, is on the job. But I think, as you said, your expression stuck in the mud. This happened at the start, and it's become almost intransigent. And there's a lot of water has gone under the bridge now with what's happened. It's with Castletown. That almost people seem quite stubborn on it, and that we need knocking heads maybe with a new government. And that's something what I'm going to do is try to knock heads with them, and say, listen, again, I'll make my word, is I vote for sale or whatever they want to call it. But again, I represent you. Hopefully the people in Castletown will vote for me and give me number ones. On the premise that I will go, because I work for you, I will go straight away to them and say, listen, we need to knock, these are the key issues in Knock Kildare for a huge area, as I said, Maynooth, Leixlip and South, and we want this sorted. It's whether they buy it, CPOs or whatever. I personally think they commence the process of the CPO. I think the CPO process should commence. It is the first step, as I said, the racing parlance again. Let's take the first step. If we don't take the first step, we'll never get to the last one. If we think about the last step, the reason we can't do that is because I hear this all the time from officials. We hear it all the time. It says, okay, let's just try the first bit. Let's go the first bit. And my experience in my area is if you start taking the first step and doing the small things first, eventually it gets momentum, and then it kind of gathers, it gets going itself. And I have no doubt that we'll get this sorted. But if you want to listen to watch other people on TikToks and videos and how they did this and that, it's all waffle, it's all nonsense. You know what I mean? Pre-election nonsense.
I don't think the government. I think it's fairly safe to say I don't think the government or anybody involved with solving the issues that that have been caused both by the sale of the land and by the private developer or by the OPW. I don't think any of them really realised the strength of the resistance in the community. And hats off to absolutely everybody who's been working on this for the last year. I think that if there hadn't been such an outcry and a sustained outcry for such a long time, I think we'd have been ignored, and I think we'd have been shut up by now.
For sure.
Yeah. So look, it's good to hear that you're in the mix on it, Bill, because we need as many voices as possible, both in Kildare County Council and in the Dáil. And it's one of the reasons it's an interesting conversation, because depending on how the elections go, and I know you'll have your fingers crossed for a place in the Dáil, but if you do find yourself back in Kildare County Council to finish out your term, it's very, very important that is hard, loud and clear. I want to talk about additional needs, school places, and the treatment of children, Bill, because I suppose I find it a bit difficult sometimes, because I am a mother of two children, two beautiful boys. They haven't started school yet, but I'm terrified of the competitive process of getting them into school. I am afraid that I won't be able to line up additional supports for my eldest boy. I have been rejected by CAMHS without explanation for supports. I'm shelling out money hand over fist for different supports, and I suppose that's my context, right? And this isn't about me, but I have to say I have heard from so many parents in the last few weeks. One parent, has no idea where their child is going to go to secondary school. It's like the feckin' Hunger Games, trying to understand where you're going to be able to educate your child, and your whole life, your work commute, the flexibility of your employer, your finances, whether or not you can afford, the buses or the transport. What the hell is going on with schools? It's just awful. What's happening? What can we do to sort out a better situation for raising children in these communities in North Kildare?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something I've been doing kind of a log on. Parents with children with special and additional needs have come up, I'd say 1 in 5 doors, right? And I think there's like what you said, you're using terrified, stressed out, how they're going to school. They want to talk to us, and they want to talk to us and tell us what they think, and it's what we want to hear. It's front and center of a lot of what I do. And when after the local elections, if you had interviewed me after the local elections and asked me what was the one thing that came up the most, what was the thing that affected you the most, I'd say this issue as well. Lack of support for children with special and additional needs, seen it constantly over and over again. So your story is not unusual. And in context, I worked out to get and the 9 million which they gave to these phone pouches that nobody wanted, that would have paid for about 11,250 private assessments for children with additional needs, right? That's called priority. That's called priority. And talking about the government then about 1,000 for every child for savings account. What about money? What about services for children who really need it?
I agree with you that services are needed for children, but I just want to poke a little hole in something you've said there, because I have heard that on the phone pouches thing, and I've also heard somebody called Norma Foley yesterday, the Minister for Phone Pouches. So there's definitely a lot of anger about it. But is it not a bit hypocritical to say, if we restrict mobile phones from children in schools, we are getting ahead of mental health problems that are sure to arise in their later or teen years? If we establish some sort of discipline around the use of harmful social media and the habits that form and become ingrained in the childhood experience, I suppose, from those ages up. I mean, is there any scenario under which you'd look at it and think, yeah, fair enough, we do need phones out of kids' hands in school, and it's worth spending a few bob on it? Just talk to me about that side of the argument.
So I'll give my experience. When I was mayor of Naas, I was to go over to St. David's where Naas is twinned with, and we were in a big cathedral for St. David's Day, and their nationalism is amazing. You know the way everything about the people of Wales is just blow you away. The town, the whole lot, and the cathedral was full of school children, right? And I was talking to the bishop. They put me up in the high altar, which I found very strange. But anyway, and I said to the bishop, I says, it's great to see that none of them are on their phones. Oh, we got rid of all that. We told them they weren't allowed. That was it. They're not allowed to have their phones, and that's it, you know. And whether some schools are absolutely fantastic. I know my own son's school in AT, they don't have it. It's put away, and that's it, you know. This
Mhm.
this this does not require a significant amount of money. Schools have told us they have other issues that they need money for. This is not their priority. You know, I know you're saying, oh, look, in the future is will you know make their protect their mental health with the phones. You know, with the advent of the likes of Elon Musk, we are really kind of you know that we're lifting sand here. You know, and this
Mhm.
is the thing. It's to do with the pouch is to do with priorities. What would that have done if a child doesn't get its assessment from the start? The parents are in the dark. And with respect to you, you're educated, you're smart. You think there's a lot of people who no notion in hell of what's going on and what they're doing is, and this is shocking, and this is what they're saying. I'm not going to send him to secondary school because he's only get severely bullied, and we've no supports, we have nothing, and we don't know where to start.
Mm.
You hear that? I have 3 teenage children. Parents are saying, look, I don't think we'll actually send that. That's back when I was a child. That's why you never saw autistic children in school. They were kept home because
Mm.
the parents knew. I work with autistic adults in a community thing around tidy towns, and when their mothers told me, oh, I never sent him to school because he was only going to get bullied. So we're moving back again to what we did before because our priorities are all arse. My view, they're completely arse. You know what I mean? When I see people like yourself, and I know Kieran Keegan in Naas Community College, who also runs a rugby class in Naas for children with special natural needs, you know, and his wife, all these people are doing it themselves. The community
Mm.
is actually doing it themselves. There's multiples of people are running classes, doing things. That is not right. Our priorities are all wrong. And principals want to do it, and teachers told me that I would love to, you know, have children special, but I would like extra training, you know, on it, you know. But there is, if you know anything about the Department of Education, anything, they make the OPW look efficient, you know.
Oh God.
They cannot they cannot comprehend anything. We've tried it with schools, we've tried it with, you know, changing to boys and girls in school. Sorry, the name, you know what I mean. Anyway,
Yeah.
different things. It is you get nowhere, and people you know, there is a tendency out there, oh, blame teachers, blame, not at all. That's not what I'm hearing at all. They really want to do it, but they want the supports and the helps. And then on top of then, like, I was in school yesterday. I won't name it because I wanted to find the child. I was talking to the SNA, and he said he's treated like a second class citizen. You know, he's treated just like he's not anybody. He's not. He's treated like, you know, nothing. And this it's a whole cultural thing and resistance.
It is it's the same in childcare. It goes as in before school, you know what I mean? Those few years before getting those supports in, and the carers and educators that are working in the childcare sector, just there's just
Can I
no
just,
respect for
can I
them.
just mention that, Teresa? We had a presentation about about childcare in Kildare, and then the question was, how many community creches do we have in Kildare? We have 8, right? Only Wexford have 35, I'm Tipperary region, and 40 or something like that, right? And I know there's 2 in my own town at home, you know. North Kildare has 1.
Mm.
That's in Maynooth University, which is open. That tells you that there is. You talk about the bridge, you talk about Castletown, keep
Yep.
going. Here we are. 1 community creche is in the second fastest growing county in the country. 1 community, and a community creche, just so people know what they are, that will cater for children, babies, to after school, all kids and kids with children with additional special needs. And I've been part of, and when I was a Social Democrat, bringing forward that every time there was a housing estate built, they have over 75, they had to put in a creche. It did that, right? It was heavily involved in that. But I'm now thinking that we have all these tiny private creches. I'm changed my view now, and I put my hand up. I think that the builders should say, right, here's a levy towards the local community creche, and that's what it'd be. It's whatever they paid, 300,000, 500,000, what it is as a part of the house. And that's why I think we need a community creche in Leixlip, in Selbridge, in Naas, in Kilcock, down somewhere. We need one in each place because they're needed, and they will cater for the children in the creche thing. And then the schools just need to, well, I mean, it's direction from the minister. Again, you say, oh, we did have the conversation before, but Norma Foley, it's sometimes you struggle to empathise with her view, because she doesn't seem to have any view on children with extra needs.
Well, there's no doubt she's come in for some flack, and most certainly the service delivery nationwide, and especially in North Kildare, in terms of school places and in terms of the chaos, it is a disgrace. Somebody should be hanging their head in shame. We have a question in or a comment in from Fiona Murphy McGowan. She says, it's great to finally hear from someone who actually knows what's going on and is speaking a lot of truths. So there you go, Bill. You've got somebody who's, you're preaching to that choir anyway. Do you agree with most Social Democrat policies? And you mentioned that Catherine Murphy had been a mentor to you. Are you a Social Democrat without the badge at heart? Or are there other places where you've kind of changed your approach to things?
Because of my own life experience, I would have traveled the world, and have seen countries with extreme poverty, And again, just as we were talking about there, one thing which struck me, a lot of the countries I would have visited when you went for a walk into the towns and the villages and all over South America and Africa, the Middle East, all sorts of stuff, is lack of education, particularly for girls. And it really struck me. Those things struck me even at a young age, in my young 20s, that we have a lot here. We have a lot going on. We have the bone. We have we're set up back at the start of the century, and to be fair, they did a good job by setting things up. Haven't managed it well in the last few years. I'm not going to miss that. So I'm quite. I would always try to be looking out for the little guy, the person who's struggling. I always looked out, even when I was in school. You'd always look out with the fellas who would be on their own. And I'm glad to see now, when I was in a school yesterday in Maynooth. That's one thing I was looking out. I didn't see any child sitting on their own, because that breaks my heart. I am very much left on that view. I'm not really right on anything, because I don't know what that means. Honestly, I don't know what that means, to be honest. I think this is pockets that Americans have all put us into these days, And I got into politics originally first when my wife worked for Intel, and we had to go to America, and I campaigned for Barack Obama, And
Nice.
in first election, and we were given iPads, and the iPads go into a neighborhood. They were huge, thousands of houses, and don't go into these houses. They had all the data because they're Republicans. They're not going to vote for us, and don't go into these houses because they're Democrats. They'll vote for us anyway, And the thought of that kind of an idea, not going talking to your own people completely doesn't make any sense to me. So getting back to your question, I don't think all parties agree on everything, we all have kind of differing views, or differing approaches, I suppose, really would be fair to me. I'd be quite pro-business, I do feel if we have business, we have jobs, we have communities, I'm not saying that the Social Democrats are not that way, but I am there. USC, I think, should be gone. I think it was a tax imposed by Fianna Fáil and back in the day, and that should be got rid of, whatever. I suppose I will always try to understand both sides of every argument. I want to look into me on both sides and see, and the question would always be on top of me, why? As an investigator, when we investigate a fatality with the trawler or with a ship or whatever, the one question we always start off with is why? Why did this happen? Not the when or where or who or what. Why? And so I always have to look at both of everything, and that would be my view on a lot of things. So whether you disagree with someone fundamentally and stuff, you have to figure out why are they taking that approach. So, but sorry, I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. It means you're going to be very busy sorting the wheat from the chaff, with a lot of problems over the course of your term, if you're successful. But it also gives us an insight into your mindset and your approach to things, which is also welcome. Look, I have a million other questions, but I'm watching the clock here, and I'm thinking, oh, we do have another one has come in. Sorry, I should tune into these comments more often. Could I ask, says Susie, why you left the Social Democrats? Apologies if I missed this being addressed. How do you think you could affect change at government level and not local level if you're successful in being elected as a TD? Susie, I think you must have missed perhaps the first few minutes of our chat when Bill did address that. But Bill, if you'd like to give a brief recap, just for the sake of Susie, there's a vote going. So if you could give us in a word, if you could.
Okay, well, thanks, Susie. You know, nothing sinister, straightforward. I topped the poll in Naas, and I feel due to all the hard work I did, and it's basically down to hard work that Catherine Murphy would have said to me, "Look, Bill, you have to do the work if you want to get elected." Simple as that. I felt then a lot of people, you should run for the Dáil. You should run for the Dáil. And I went. I put myself forward in the party, and I lost out by a couple of votes to Aidan Farley, and best of luck to Aidan. But that's it. But then I had a good long think about it over a number of weeks over the summer, and my family was, people are encouraging me. They said I had a lot to offer, particularly with the work I did with dereliction, that kind of stuff could be replicated around the county, which I believe it can. And I had a good lot to think about it, and I said, oh, sure, look, you'll regret the things in life you didn't do, and rather than the things in life you did. So I said, listen, and it was and I went to the party and I spoke to them, and I tried to see was there other alternatives as regard maybe a second candidate, or maybe the Senate or something that I could maybe progress, because again, getting back to my own career, we would always be progressing, two ranks, moving up. It's just in me. I can't help myself. And if I found I was with a company that I was not progressing, I would move to another company. It's just kind of in me. I can't explain it, but so I decided to go there, and that's simply that.
It's fair to say then, I suppose, that you're hungry to progress, but you're not just running for the Dáil, you're running for the people. Because what I've heard from you is that you take your steer from the doors and from the community, and you're, I suppose, free of any constraints that a party might have on your decision making, which is, again, it's an unusual proposition, and certainly it makes the panel of candidates that we have that bit more varied, and so I do find it intriguing. Well, Bill, we are coming up on time. I'm going to just allow you to, or invite you to, I should say, give a parting message to people who are listening, and then I'll wrap us up. Everybody who's watching here, whether you're listening on the podcast, watching us live, or watching us on a replay, pop your questions and comments in under the video. And Bill, if you have a chance, swing in. If there are questions you can answer for people, it's a good source of conversation, and I know you're all ears. But with that, why don't you give us a parting message, and I'll wrap us up afterwards. Thanks very much, Bill Cleere.
I'll give you a non-party message as an independent, because I think I am an independent voice in North Kildare, and we really need an independent voice, of somebody who will. And as I say, I will work for the people on the doors. I will not be working for a party. I will not be working for Dáil Éireann there. And I will be going through what I call my list that I was given on the doors in all the towns of North Kildare, and the villages and the countryside, the people I met, to say, and I have the list, I have it all, and I go through it bit by bit by bit. But if you vote for me, I will come back to you. I will deliver for you as best I can. I will keep going on that. As a councillor, I delivered about over 90% of the jobs that people gave to me on the door, and I think that's what resonated. And I went back to people and said, look, I'm sorry, I haven't been able to do that. And I'm taking that same approach. I'm not going to disappear up into the Dáil and never be seen again and giving speeches and all this stuff, because who's going to listen to me, really? And if I come up with a good idea, and I have a few good ideas, but if I come up with a good idea, they'll steal it off me anyway, and that's the reality of it. So if you want somebody who's going to work for you, an independent voice, who's not afraid to speak their mind, who's going to leverage their vote with the government for you, for what concerns you, I'm your man. And just vote number one, Bill Cleere.
Well, thank you for that parting message, Bill. Again, a very unusual proposition, and I do hope that people will give a listen and a watch to this interview and see what you're all about. To everybody at home, thank you so much for staying with us for this interview. Comments are coming in, which is great to see as well. Join us again this evening at 8 for the next candidate. But this has been a conversation with Councillor Bill Cleere, independent, running for the general election and looking for your number one vote on November 29th. So with that said, good luck and goodbye, and see you later. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody.